What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Just Another Tech and Gaming Show. I'm your host, Nick, joined as always by my friend and fellow gamer, Victor. Today, we're going to be talking about the Xbox Series X, which was recently revealed at the 2019 Game Awards. Now, whether you like the Game Awards, whether you don't like the Game Awards, there was a pretty big announcement. It was shown off, and we got to see that we're looking at a tower for our next Xbox console. Victor, what do you think about the design of the Xbox Series X?
I think it's pretty bold. It's definitely a new type of look for a gaming console that we're used to.
It's like a new take on consoles.
Yeah, I think it's innovative. I don't personally care for. I mean, I don't personally not like it. I do like it. I like how it's different. I like it's just a whole new feel. It's like it just kind of feels like you're starting a whole new generation of the form factor of gaming consoles. It's not just limited to that thin horizontal piece. You know, you can, and I think what Phil Spencer said when he said, "I didn't go to the team to make what I want fit in this box. I told them what I want spec wise." And then they
made the box around that.
Exactly. And I think that's super awesome. Gives the engineers a lot of freedom to really do what we want.
I really love hearing that as well, because that's my main concern. I don't really look at my console and go, well, that's the centerpiece of my living room. If it's not the fanciest thing in here, what do I have it for? It's really made to play games, so I like that that's the goal of this design. The only concern that I have, like, I don't actually mind, but my only concern is that it looks like it's going to take up enough space that I can't really fit a console directly next to it. Now, some people probably can. I put my consoles at the very edge of my desk because I live the dangerous life. And I have a PlayStation 4 Pro stacked neatly next to an Xbox One X because I'm spoiled as hell. Don't worry, I just do it to myself, though. My credit cards would say otherwise. Anyways, so I have them stacked horizontally right next to each other. They go really well together, just sitting there right next to each other. But I'm afraid that if I had the Xbox Series X, I think we're going to have a hard time with the name. The Xbox Series X, if I had that right there, the PlayStation definitely couldn't fit. I would have to find some different area for it. Luckily, they did say that you can lay it down horizontally if you want to. It doesn't have to be vertical. I think it looks okay. I personally don't mind that it kind of looks like a almost like a pseudo gaming PC. I know some people care about it. I really don't. I think we'll get into that a little bit later. Before we go any further with this topic, though, I did kind of want to ask you what you're playing right now. Just in lieu of the Game Awards, I think that maybe you're playing something from them. I don't know.
Yeah,
I certainly am.
I beat the Outer Worlds a while ago, and I thought I'd kind of do another playthrough with a whole different style of playing, I guess you could say. So on the PC,
right,
through Game Pass, I've been trying a whole new story, just to kind of see what other things are hidden there. You know, you can't get everything in the first playthrough, so I'm gonna do a second one.
Right. I feel it. A lot of people play that game twice. There must be something about it. I should probably play that game so that I understand. I have been playing a little bit more of Control. I play very sporadically, so I probably am going to be saying... hopefully I don't say that again. Hopefully I'm totally done with Control next time we do another podcast. I have been playing a little bit of Fire Emblem Three Houses. I still got to beat that game. That's a lot longer, though. And then I picked up Astral Chain for the Nintendo Switch. It was on sale. And I'm really excited to play that one. It was a nominee, not a winner. Also, I've been playing Sekiro. That game is really hard, but very rewarding when you actually get past the area that you're going through. Anyways, and also some Crash Team Racing. They have a new event right now. They're still going to have the event when this podcast goes live. If you play Crash Team Racing, there's a Christmas event going on. Very worth checking out. New characters, new cars, new tracks. Anyways, we can continue on through here. Actually, bit of a PSA before we keep going.
Yeah.
Redbox, if you know what a Redbox is, and you probably do, they're dropping the game rental market. So if you have one near you, then you might be able to pick up some games for a decent price, as they're currently selling out of their stock. So drop by Redbox, get a good deal on some games.
Yeah, some new games
just
too.
as a reference. Yeah. I saw that they have
Modern Warfare.
what is that one? Death Stranding. Modern Warfare is on sale. They also have Jedi Fallen Order. Of course, you don't get the case. You just have that little red box sleeve, but maybe some people don't care. So just wanted to announce that in case anybody was looking to get some good deals on games, perhaps for themselves or for somebody else just before Christmas hits. But now we can go ahead and get into it a lot further. Xbox Series X.
Yes.
Talked about the look of it. I think we're both okay with that.
Yeah.
Some people, I will mention, seem to be upset with it because it looks kind of like a gaming PC. And for some reason, this is the weirdest thing to me. They say if it looks like a gaming PC, why don't I just get a gaming PC? And the thing is, or they look at it and they're like, now it just feels like a pre-built tower. But I don't really look at it that way because that's the aesthetic of the console itself, not the functionality of the console. And the reason why I buy console, because I know you have a gaming PC, but the reason why I buy console is because I like it to be a very simple experience. I'm not looking to use it for anything other really than playing games. Occasionally I'll use a console for like streaming Netflix or perhaps YouTube, but it's very rare that I use my console for anything other than gaming. I just want to be able to pop a game in and play it. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Do you feel like the console market's getting a lot closer to PC? I mean, you know, that argument is very valid, but I don't think they're the same yet.
Yeah, Microsoft's not been quiet about wanting to merge the markets, you know, with their whole game plan. With the whole Windows PC, Xbox coming to Windows, cross-platform gameplay, like they're jumping in the direction, and I think as Xbox is a key player in the game, it's gonna start to change the industry, the market, the standard, I guess you can say, to essentially kind of merge the different markets. So they'll maybe be exclusives on PC or exclusives on, you know, their console. But I don't know. It's coming into an area where we have not been yet, and I think it's a very interesting change. I personally like my gaming PC because I can update components. I don't have to buy a whole new system. I can just upgrade what I need to and be good to stay up to date with the current generation of gaming specs. But then again, there you have those people where they just kind of would rather get, okay, everything on my computer is 5-6 years old. I just want a whole new thing, so I'm just gonna grab a console pre-built. Everything in there up to date, can run whatever it needs to. So I mean, I think it's gonna be very interesting, and I'm very pro what they're doing. So I have nothing bad to say. They're doing something new. They're changing the market. They have the means to do so because also they build they have Windows operating software, so they're really familiar with that type of stuff. So I think we're gonna see it come from Microsoft first. Maybe other companies will have to follow due to they're losing their player base in that particular market.
So I kind of think that, I think you're right. I think they're merging the market a little bit together. I think that as far as things go, I know that at least we have this next console generation, but I expect that we're always going to have some consoles. I think a real big benefit of the consoles, this is just an example, is that PlayStation 4 came out 2013. If you have a PlayStation 4 and it still works, you could still play every new title all the way up until 2020, and then you're still probably going to be able to play a handful of titles from the next generation as well. And a huge benefit of these consoles is that even though I might not have the best graphical fidelity, the best frame rate, I may not have the best resolution because I don't have a gaming PC, I can still play the games. And that's what's most important to some people. And I think that what's happened with the market lately is that some people they don't want to go to a gaming PC, but they're interested in having a higher frame rate, they're interested in having better resolutions, they're interested in having better graphical capabilities. That's why the Xbox One X exists, and that's why the console generations continue. Correct. So we're going to see the Xbox Series X, the PlayStation 5. They're going to up the game, and I think they're going to be that next console that is much closer to a PC than the releasing consoles have ever been, because they're going to have a lot more capability in terms of what they can do graphically, in terms of what they can do with resolution, and what they can do with frame rates. And I think, a lot of the specs are kind of already known. but they look very impressive, and it looks like they're going to be able to really provide some horsepower in terms of these games,
Definitely.
or in terms of gaming, and I guess other things too. It just depends on what they allow you to do. I still think that there will always be a segment, because the thing for me is that while I wouldn't mind having a gaming PC, like I said, the console experience is what I'm looking for, just to pop a game in and to just go, or to just click a game and to just go. And like that's what these operating systems are built around. That's what, I'm sorry, for the consoles, they're built around just pick up and play. And I think that's why the Nintendo Switch is so great, because it is the like pinnacle of the pick up and play, because you could just pick it up,
hands down,
play it,
yeah.
you could pop it in the dock, play it, and it's just instantaneous. And I know that that's not really what Microsoft is going for, but at the same time, like I think that's why it's such a popular machine, and that's where I think that console gaming resides, is that idea of just being able to pick up a game and play it pretty hassle free. Well, anyways, moving forward away from like the design and the concept of the device, what are you thinking? Like we've seen specs, we've seen the release date, kind of the release window, because it's going to be holiday 2020, but we've kind of already figured that. What do you think the price is going to be?
I know they mentioned they learned their lesson from the X coming out with a really high price point. So I think we're gonna see maybe the same price, or maybe $100 less. That's what I'm thinking. So maybe about 500. It sounds about right. I mean, because you have to think about what they're putting into it too. You can't get the best of the software and get a price, that's lower than what the specs are in the system. It's just not realistic, because they have to make money off it as well.
Right, they're not coming out to lose money. That's the thing.
Exactly. So I think it's going to be the 500 mark. I think that's going to be a sweet spot for a lot of these next gen consoles. But yeah, that's my best guess. What about you, Nick?
So I'm going to talk about the specs just a little bit, even though a lot of people have probably already heard about it. I think that you're right, and I think that this is why. They're going to have a custom AMD Zen 2 based CPU, 8 cores at about 3.6 gigahertz. Custom AMD Navi based GPU, which is rated for like 12 teraflops of performance. 16 gigs GDDR6 RAM. 13 guaranteed for developers. I didn't know that there was all this information about it. I'm finding my information from Windows Central. I find them to be a pretty good source. I would highly suggest you take a look. We have video output, and a lot of people have heard this too, 8K to 4K. I'm sorry, I guess I should have said that the other way, 4K to 8K at up to 120 hertz. Optical drive is going to be a 4K Blu-ray. We don't necessarily know what the ports are. I don't even think it has one on the front. Still, the price is unknown. The size is estimated to be 30 centimeters by 16 centimeters by 16 centimeters, coming out holiday 2020. I think, based off the specs, $500 is the least that they can charge. I would be shocked if it was any cheaper than that. I think maybe they can get away with $449. I don't know if that's what they're going to try to do. But I think it's going to be $500 as well. The Xbox One X for $500 has half this performance today. Now, the Xbox One X is also usually discounted to $400 or to $350. So I think it's plausible that this comes out at $500. I couldn't imagine it coming out at any more than that. If you try to charge more than $500, you really have a huge asking price, and I just don't think you're going to garner a big market.
Yeah.
So I think that they have to charge $500.
I agree.
From there, the PS5 sounds... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Xbox is no stranger to releasing multiple versions of a console, and I doubt we're going to see anything different this generation. So I'm thinking maybe they'll launch at that price, and then they'll probably launch like a Pro version or an S version or something like that. That might actually peak above that 500 mark. That's what I'm thinking, to slowly kind of tippy-toe their way into a higher price market.
That's an interesting concept that you have there, because I'm assuming that they might do the opposite. Now, Xbox is kind of in a good position because they have the Xbox One X. Mm-hmm. And so I'm wondering if that's their cheaper offering. We've reduced the price of the Xbox One X to this, and we're going to dedicate the next for the next 3 years, all of our exclusives are going to come out for the One X and the Series X, or if that's too complicated. And a lot of theories are that it's going to have, they, just like you said, they might have a Series S, and then that might be the cheaper version of the console that doesn't offer quite as much performance.
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, it's really interesting to see. I really assume that they're not going to come out with anything more than one. I think coming out with the Series X by itself would be really solid, and it gives a much more clear message.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which is also kind of my concern for this system. And I think we talked about it a little bit, but we're going to get into it now. The Xbox Series X has one major gaping problem, and it's the name. Xbox has been doing a bad naming scheme this generation and now proceeding into the next generation. Xbox One, bad name. I don't think they should have gone with it. I couldn't tell you what they should have gone with, but they shouldn't have gone with Xbox One. Xbox One S kind of makes sense because it was a slim console. And then Xbox One X, I don't really know why they in particular chose to go with Xbox One X, but I understand that it's more powerful than the One S. And
I
they
feel
really
like the
marketed
X
it like that.
was more than just a little soup up. I feel like it could have been its own another console for the most part, but that's just my personal opinion.
Kind of, and I think that that's what they were kind of advertising as well when they were bringing it out. And that's why I say it might be a good pairing with the Xbox Series X for those that don't want to spend as much money but still want to have next generation type, console.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like it's almost a next generation console compared to the original, like PlayStation 4 and original Xbox One.
Yeah.
But anyways, and I think it offers more than 3 times the performance, something like 4 times the performance almost.
Yeah, about 4 times.
As to what the original Xbox One and the original PlayStation 4 gave. So, but in any case, they didn't have a good naming scheme with that, and now they're continuing to not have a good naming scheme with Xbox Series X. I find it's not necessarily confusing to you or I because we're really invested in this market. And I think that a lot of people who would listen to this podcast or other podcasts related to gaming will probably understand the Xbox Series X is the new Xbox. But that can't be such a big market that it's everybody that plays games because it just definitely is not. And my concern is people that go to the store and they don't really know what they're looking for are going to be like, I want the Xbox X, or I
Grandma
want
and
the Xbox.
grandpa
Which
shopping
one?
for
I don't
Christmas
know.
presents.
Even parents though. I mean, I think that even somebody, honestly anybody, but I'm thinking like, let's say you have parents in their 40s or 50s, they're going to the store to buy you the Xbox for your birthday or Christmas or whatever. And they get to the store and they're like, I need the Xbox X, or I need an Xbox. What is it? I don't know. It has an X in it. I hear it's got 2 X's in it or 3 X's or whatever. It's got a bunch of X's in it and it's black. And then the person at Target is going to be like, or whatever store, I just chose Target for no reason, is going to go, okay, well, this one has an X in it, and they're just going to grab the Xbox One X, and they're going to go, yeah, that's probably it. My son said it was a black console.
Yeah, they're the same. This one's actually $200 cheaper, so you might as well go with that one.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a big deal too, because you're right. They absolutely will look at it and go, well, cheaper, yeah, let's get the cheap one. Like, it's the same thing, isn't it? And then the kid's going to be like, no!
It's an X.
So
they're
exactly.
sold out everywhere.
It's
Time to
got
wait
an
3
X in it.
months.
Oh my god. Yeah. So anyways, that's my concern with the naming scheme, but I think Microsoft is still going to advertise it really well. I think it's still going to perform really well. It looks different than the last console, which is a big deal. My main concern and what I wanted to bring up is like, this is kind of what Nintendo did with the Wii. They had the Nintendo Wii. It was like just a super popular console. Tons and tons of them. Over 100 million sold. And then they brought out their next generation and they called it the Wii U. It didn't come out with the other consoles. It came out a year earlier than the PS4 and the Xbox One. And it had a big Fisher-Price-like tablet. But the design of the console looked very similar to the Wii. And calling it the Wii U made a lot of people think, I've heard so many people say this, so many. I didn't believe it was real. I honestly did not believe that people thought this. But there are a lot of people that thought that the Wii U was literally a tablet for the Wii. And that they were charging $350.
Yeah.
Did you really?
I really did, honest to God. I was like, oh, that's cool. They came out with the tablet.
Tons of people. Tons and tons of people. And I'm assuming if you weren't like a diehard Nintendo fan, you didn't know. Like, you had no idea. They were super unclear on their message, and then they made it even worse on themselves by doing a bunch of Nintendo Directs instead of showing up to E3 anymore. They just gave up. I shouldn't say gave up. They changed the way that they were going about business, but I think it was to save themselves money
Yeah.
and like
Because they were
pre-record
hurting
showing
after
stuff.
that. They were hurting after that.
Really bad, really really bad. They came off of the. I mean, this isn't about Nintendo, but they came off of the GameCube, which didn't have great sales, but no one did because PlayStation stomped everybody with the PlayStation 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how. The PlayStation 2 is the least powerful of those three consoles, but Sony still won that console
I feel like
war
it had that
in
content
spades.
though.
It
The content was
outsold the other
top-notch.
consoles. Well, that's the thing is a lot of people say that too. But then if you look back on it, it actually wasn't, particularly good. There was a lot of shovelware on the PlayStation 2 because it was so popular. There were a bunch of just dumpy games that were worth nothing on it. I mean, I remember it in like the highlight and the golden era as well because I was young when it came out too. But anyways, so they came off of a failure with the GameCube in a sense because it only sold like 24 million or something like that. Then they had the Wii, which was just bananas, sold almost 110 million. And then they have the Wii U, which sold less than 15 million. It's just devastating. Now, they're back where they need to be with the Nintendo Switch, which a lot of people were like, I don't know if I like that name. And I thought, what's wrong with it? I think a naming scheme kind of like that makes sense. PlayStation obviously has the best naming scheme, the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is what I think is the best possible naming scheme that you could have. Is just a series of numbers because then it makes it really clear and easy to tell what it is that is coming out next. What's the newest PlayStation? The 5. What's the one before that? The 4. It's so easy to just tell someone,
Yeah.
it's the PlayStation 5 that I'm looking for. Boom. There's no confusion. It's not like, is it this one? That's a PlayStation 4, dumbass. Like, it says it right on the box.
I think
you
it
know?
works for them though. I kind of hope they don't change it. Honestly, that's just my personal opinion. I kind of like it. It's part of its
Oh, what?
its iconism. Yeah, the numbering system.
Oh, I
bump
like it
up.
too, but that's why I'm saying is that, like, PlayStation has a really good naming scheme, whereas Xbox has not done a great naming scheme, and I'm just really...
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know if that doesn't make or break the console, but I feel like it is going to hurt sales a little bit, I think, because some people are going to get confused. But anyways, I won't harp on it too much. Now, I don't think that there's enough information to gauge this.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Let's go with this other piece first. Do you think the PlayStation 5 is going to look similar to the Xbox Series X? Do you think they're going to go with the box design as well? Do you
Not
think
at
they're
all.
going to
Nope.
another design?
Definitely not going
No.
to that.
You think they're going to do the horizontal tower again?
I think they're
I
gonna.
mean, I'm sorry, not the horizontal tower, but like the slimmer.
Yeah, I think they're gonna do that. I've seen. I don't know how accurate or true the mock-ups are
Oh,
online.
the weird horseshoe one.
Yeah, they did mention that was a prototype and it wasn't to naturally reflect the final version of the console, which I can understand that. But I don't know. I don't think we're gonna see the standard, the horizontal box, kind of like what we see with the PS4, or like the Xbox One X or anything like that. But it's definitely not gonna be a tower. I feel like I can safely assume that, and this is just an assumption. I could be completely wrong, but I just don't see them going that route. What
I
about
don't
you?
really either. I'm looking at mock-ups right now of it, and I don't want to see it come out in that weird horseshoe shape either. It's funny though because I guess the PlayStation 4, it's the dev kit that looks like this. That's why people are freaking out. And
Yeah.
I think that they were asked by Wired if the dev kit is real, like if those are real images of the dev kit. And Sony said, yeah, it is. And then everybody's like, oh my God, please don't let it look like that. So I don't want the official console to look like that either. But the dev kit for the PlayStation 4 apparently was just a big metal box. And it kind of looked like the Xbox Series X. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what they come out with. I don't really like the stacked design of the PlayStation 4 Pro, to be honest with you. And it's kind of loud. So
Yeah.
I actually prefer to play my Xbox One X with third-party games. Not only does it play them better, but it's also way quieter when I'm playing. So I hope Sony has a little bit of a better like venting system and cooling system for the console next time, kind of regardless of how it looks. But I don't think it's going to be a tower either. I'm going to be really interested to see if it does look kind of like a PC tower, like a squared off rectangular one, versus being thinner. I think it's gonna be kind of reminiscent of the PlayStation 4 Pro. I don't want it to have the stack design, but for some reason I think they're gonna go with that again. I mean, it's iconic. I just don't really like it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a very good point.
let's see.
Very
Well,
good point,
anyways, talking PlayStation 5 versus Xbox Series X, which one do you think is gonna be more powerful? Now, I don't think we have enough information to gauge that, and I don't think that we have enough and I don't think it's gonna be a big power gap. But which one do you think is gonna have the edge on the other console?
Okay. Okay. I don't want to rub Xbox the wrong way because I love my Xbox. I would always say Xbox. But based off what I've seen, especially with the cloud computing, I think the Xbox One X is going to be very powerful, but it's going to rely a lot more on cloud computing as well to kind of make up for some of the extra computing. So I think, because I don't know too much about the PlayStation 5 and kind of what their aim is for cloud gaming or anything like that. So I think PS5 is probably going to build the powerhouse as far as, you know, written numbers and stuff, written number power.
Like
and
if
stuff
you're not
like that.
connected to a cloud or anything?
Yeah, yeah, but I think Xbox is going to be powerful, but it's gonna rely on a little bit of cloud help as well, which I think in turn is going to be great for what they're planning to do in the future. But to answer your question, I think the PlayStation 5 is going to be the more powerful console.
Powerful unit, like right out of the box.
Yeah, that's what I think. I hope I'm wrong, but
I think
that's what I'm going with.
the reason why I'm going to say I think there's a good chance of that as well is because I kind of feel like, first of all, Sony, when they're talking about the console, which I don't think Microsoft has said this, but when they talk about the console, they mention how it's going to be meant for like the pro consumer, like the more dedicated, like, or the hardcore. They say the PlayStation 5 is going to be meant more for the hardcore gamer, and so I'm wondering if it's going to be even more expensive than the Xbox Series X, which would be really interesting. If it was more expensive, I can't imagine Sony trying to charge more than like $549. But I'm sure they're feeling pretty ballsy with how well the PlayStation 4 is sold. Yeah. So I don't know. But that's the thing is, I don't want them to go back like they did, because the PlayStation 2 sold extremely well, and then they brought out the PlayStation 3 for $600,
Exactly.
and it just was too expensive for consumers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't want them to tread the same ground. I really don't want them to fall into that again, because it's just not a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. I was just about to mention that too, how they kind of messed up with that too, and that affected their sales. So yeah.
Right, it made a big difference, and I think I think it's really important that they don't go to that $600 price tag again. But I wouldn't be shocked if they went all the way up to $549.
Yeah. I wonder why these gaming companies don't allow people to optionally choose to get if people wanted to pay $600-700 for a console, that's their choice. But I think there should at least be maybe an optional option to where those prosumers could essentially get the console of their dreams, I guess you can say. I don't know, I think that would be
right,
something cool.
In a sense, I understand what you're saying.
Sorry, that was kind of
I get it in some respect. No, I understand. I understand exactly what you're saying, really. Where you're kind of making it's not, let's see, I don't know how to phrase it, I guess, exactly, but I understand what you're saying, where you're going with it, where you're saying, like, sure, it's not, we're not opposed to seeing a console for $700. It's just that you have to know that you need a console that is also not $700 at launch, so that people can buy into a console that's less expensive and reasonably so.
Exactly.
Like, we can't expect, you don't want there to be a console that's that pricey. It's not, absurd to have a console that costs more money, but it certainly doesn't help if you only have a console that costs more money.
Yeah.
Kind of that concept, right?
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be widely produced. You can do like custom orders online or something, tailor it to those people who want it. I'm sure they won't mind waiting for something that they want,
Right.
Hey, that's just a speculation. Something to toss up there.
Right. Let's see. So I have another thing that I wanted to mention between the two. which I can't really think of it. I mean, I think you're right, basically, is that I think the PlayStation 5 is going to be a little bit more powerful. I wonder if they're going to release more than one PlayStation 5, though. I know it's not, like, I don't think we're going to see more than one Xbox, but I could see more than one PlayStation 5. Oh, yeah, another reason why I kind of think that the PlayStation 5 might be a little bit more powerful is because they don't talk so much about, like, cloud computing. I think they want the power to be on the console itself, but also the PlayStation 4 touted like 4.2 teraflops of performance, and so I kind of don't think they want to go for 3 times the performance. I think they want to go for more than 3 times the performance, whereas Microsoft just doubled up on the Xbox One X capabilities. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we're still awaiting to see what's going to happen there. Moving on, though. Sorry for saying so many times. Do you think that Microsoft is going to do better with the Xbox Series X and next generation versus how they did with the current generation, where they're not necessarily, I wouldn't call that, like, the Xbox isn't a failure. I'm not looking at it thinking that it's a failure right now, but I certainly am not looking at it as a huge success, because it obviously is not as good as the PlayStation 4. It didn't sell nearly as well. They don't even announce the sales numbers anymore. It's estimated to be somewhere around 40 million, which is less than half what the PlayStation 4 has sold. And so do you think the Xbox Series X is going to sell better than the Xbox One has?
I think so. The current generation of Xbox, the S, I'm sorry, my most recent Xbox is the S. So it was the one where they implemented a lot of the TV, like your one box for everything. I think they're going away from that, obviously, and I think that's going to be a good strong point for them. So I think it's going to be successful, and I don't know. I've so much that I've seen bits and pieces of rumor mill that are in play, and or that's supposedly in development. So I really want to say it's going to be a really good year next year.
Like with xCloud and stuff, they might be able to pull ahead, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The things surrounding the Xbox might really drive you towards it as opposed to just the device itself, like it has been in the past.
Exactly, yeah, because like this next coming up generation of hardware, I don't really put it in stuff we've seen before. It's not like the PS3, then the PS4. It's kind of, that's just hardware based. But now we're moving into something not just hardware based. We're moving into more hardware improvements and software improvements and improvements in the ecosystem as well, which is not very common. You have these years where people are super innovative, and then the other years they just kind of follow suit. This coming up year is going to be a year for innovation for sure, especially in cloud gaming. Like, I say that all the time, and I'm not going to stop saying it. But I think it's going to be. I mean,
when they're working towards it, so I think that xCloud is going to be the go-to for cloud gaming, versus Stadia, which I think is just going to end up flopping and end up getting, unless Google scales that back a lot, I think it's going to flop. They make these things it's like, oh, this is too big to fail. Not if you don't have the users to support it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just don't think that Google takes that into consideration.
I don't think so either. So I think we'll probably see
slap
them
the
fall
Google
off.
name on it, and they assume it's going to do really well.
Yeah, we'll probably see them fall off even before the X launches or the PS5 launches. But who knows? That's just speculation.
It might, yeah, it's possible, but I think it's going to lose a lot of popularity. If there's any popularity for Stadia, I think it's going to go away as soon as the next consoles come out. But I do want to mention, so I think Xbox is going to do better next generation as well, and I think a main point of this is because they've been so consumer friendly lately. But in consumer friendly mentions, I mean, like, they've been offering games with their consoles, they've been reducing the prices, they've been bringing, they bought a bunch of studios because they realized that they didn't have enough first party studios to compete with Sony. Like, if you have a PlayStation 4 especially, you have a much more diverse and better library than a Xbox. If you were buying all the first-party games, there's just not very many coming out from Microsoft, and the ones that do come out aren't amazing games or great games. They're usually just good games. Now, that's not always true, because usually the Halo games are pretty well received. Mm-hmm. Usually the Gears of War games are pretty well received, and the Gears of War 5 is supposed to be very, very good. I still have yet to play that, so I need to check it out, but I don't know, I might have started it, but if I did, I don't remember much of it. But there are certain things from Microsoft that come out that are really, really good. but not everything from Microsoft is amazing. And Phil Spencer realized that. They ended up buying up a bunch of studios to make first-party studios, and now they're going to get really great things. Like Hellblade 2 is probably going to be an amazing game. I think Halo Infinite is probably going to do phenomenally. I'm sure there's going to be a Gears of War 6. Gears of War Tactics looks really interesting, and I think that people who are really invested in the Gears franchise are going to love that game. And also things like Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Ori and the Blind Forest is an amazing game. I really love that game. And to see what is coming next for Xbox is going to be really interesting because I want to see them be able to compete with Sony because I have both consoles and I'll probably have both consoles next generation as well. But anyways, I wanted to mention that because I think they're going to have a much, much stronger start in 2020 with the Xbox Series X, the launch, the games coming out for it, the things that they do to support it as time goes on versus what they had done with the Xbox One, originally. When they announced that in 2013 at E3, they showed some anti-consumer stuff like nobody's business. And Don Matrick was the CEO or the head of Xbox at the time. That guy was so not consumer friendly, at least in the eyes of what we got to see from him, because I even remember they said, he goes, Xbox One is always online. And he was asked a question, well, what about people who don't have internet? And he goes, well, we have a console for you. It's called the Xbox 360. And that's the worst thing I think I've ever heard anybody who's the head of, probably anything say. I mean, imagine if somebody went, what if I like having, let's see, what if $1,000 is too much for a phone? If you said that to Apple, Apple's not going to go, we have a phone for you, okay, you cheap piece of shit. It's called the old iPhone. Why don't you just keep it and get out of my face? That's what it feels like as a consumer to hear that. If you imagine something like, we have a console for you, you cheap son of a bitch. That's not cool. You don't want to hear that. I don't have internet in my area. It doesn't matter. You're not going to get our console. And I mean, it's almost, you still kind of need internet in a sense anyway because these consoles get updated periodically and games get updated all the time. So really, if you want the full experience, you do need to have internet, but it would be nice to not have internet at all, to not need it at all to be able to play games. For those that don't have it, some people don't have access to that, but they still want to play games.
Or I had to cancel my internet to pay for my mortgage,
Right, so now I don't have an Xbox. Now I can't even enjoy one of the things that I was able to buy when I did have money. Yeah, and I mean, that's a good point too, is sometimes the internet goes down, you want to be able to play something, and if it was always online, you can't. But anyway, so I think they're going to do much better this generation. Now I do want to ask, and this isn't necessarily about the Xbox Series X. I think we've kind of covered everything that we can, unless you had anything more to add to the conversation.
No, I think we're good right now. More information will come up, as we get closer to holiday 2020. So I think we covered it a lot.
I think so too. Now I think we do have some other console manufacturers to talk about, though. Not in wide scale, but I did want to chat about it a little bit. And still about Microsoft, just a tad. So the Xbox One X is kind of the bridge from where we're at now to the next generation. It came out November 2017, and it really does tout pretty good performance. Do you think that it is going to technically die at the same time all of the other consoles that came out this generation does? Or do you think it's going to be able to have some staying power because it's more powerful than everything else? And by that I mean when the Xbox One, the original Xbox One, lose support, when they no longer make games for it, do you think the Xbox One X is going to be in that same category where they're we stopped making games for last generation, including the Xbox One X?
No, not at all. I think we're going to see backwards compatibility be a standard moving forward.
Well, I'm sure, we have backwards compatibility, but what I'm saying is, one day they'll make a Call of Duty that they say, now this Call of Duty plays on Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. And then do you think there'll also be a time period when they're and Xbox One X and maybe PlayStation 4 Pro, and then just not the original PlayStation or the original Xbox One? Or do you think because that'll be too complicated, they'll be no, it only plays on the current generation. Xbox One X is last generation. It does not play on that.
I mean, I guess we would
It's
see
a
that.
toss up.
It
We're not
makes
going to know the
sense.
answer.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because developers are gonna want to always push the limits. They're not gonna want to just make games where they want to push the limits and whatnot,
See,
their
that's
creativity. So, I think we will
I
see
agree
that.
in a s- I agree in a sense with you because a lot of developers do try to push the limits. And like, let's use Witcher 3 as an example. When Witcher 3 came out, there's no chance, there's nothing that they can do to get that game to play well on a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360. Maybe you could dial it back so far, but then I feel like you're going to lose so much capability that no one would want to play it. I mean, that's why we don't have games for the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360 anymore. But I've heard this term before from someone who I think is really, really good at relaying information about the gaming industry, has his podcast and everything. It's Colin Moriarty. He used to work for IGN way back in the day. He once said, if Activision could sell a copy of Call of Duty that played on a fucking toaster oven, they would sell it. And I agree. That's the point. If they thought they could make $1 from putting it on something, they'll do it. But it's where there's this bridge where they go, okay, if we keep dialing the specs back to release it on the old consoles, people are going to be disappointed. And if we keep, and if we don't do that, if we keep, I gotta find out where I cursed because I want to bleep that. But, anyways, if we keep dialing back the graphics so that it'll work on this other console, people are going to be disappointed. They're going to stop buying copies. And I'm wondering if that conversation is going to come up and they're going to be like, yeah, so the Xbox One X is out too. And I'm hoping, but I'm not sure that we're going to say that was 32 minutes. We don't really know, but I'm going to take a shot in the dark. Anyways, what I'm saying is I think that I want in conversation to come up where they go, no, the Xbox One X still has enough power to run this system. It comes out for that, and it comes out for PlayStation 4 Pro. It does not come out for the original consoles from the last generation. It comes out for the later consoles. Because the problem is that like the PlayStation 4 Pro, while it has a longer shelf life, only had 4 years out as a console before the generation after it. And then the Xbox One X is even worse because it only has 3 years before the next generation console comes out. And what I'm saying is, if these don't have a staying power of more than like 3 or 4 years, people won't want to upgrade in a mid-generation refresh, you know? Right. Yeah. No. It is something with. I just feel like that is gonna be accurate. Like I don't know if they're. I feel like they have to if they want to do mid generation refreshes. They're gonna have to make sure that these have a lasting effect.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Definitely agree with you there.
I mean, you don't have an Xbox One X, but you have a PlayStation 4 Pro, and if that's not supported for much longer, do you feel like it was a waste of money?
Yeah, well, yeah, I spend money on it at some point, so I would feel like that. But as time go, things just kind of they
Well, they
they're
get
not recent.
outdated,
Yeah,
but
they're
I'm
outdated,
just saying,
yeah.
like, to put it in perspective, I don't want to pay $500 every 3 years to keep up with the console market because at that point I might as well be buying $1,000 PC that's going to last longer
Yeah, I mean,
and that I could just swap parts on.
yeah, but my biggest thing is I buy for the ecosystem. I mean, I really like the ecosystem a lot, so that's kind of what really drives me to kind of want to purchase it, not just the specs itself, obviously, which is a positive,
Right.
but that ecosystem for sure is just something I feel like is worth paying for, even though I pay Xbox Live as well. But I don't know, it's just something that's really been ingrained for years, since that original Xbox.
Yeah. Right. Let's see. The only other thing that I really had for us was the Nintendo side of the conversation. Now, I think that Nintendo has something really great in the Nintendo Switch. They obviously are willing to make other iterations of the console because they brought out the Switch Lite But do you think that they're going to bring out something more like a Switch Pro to compete with the Xbox Series X and maybe the PlayStation 5? Or do you think that they're not going to feel like they need to and they'll just keep the regular Switch?
I feel like they might not do anything. I know it's kind of weird, but I feel like that they're just gonna roll with what they have now and just continue to do improvements on it, maybe more exclusives. That's just my guess. I know I want to say a new console, but I don't know. I just feel like it's working really good with them right now, especially with no direct competition, especially for the handheld market. So
Right.
I think they're safe to kind of milk it for a little bit, but I mean it really depends. If they start to see sales drop significantly, they might just need to have one in their back pocket to just kind of send out, because it seems like they're not really rolling out on the same schedule as Microsoft and Sony's kind of going. So they're a little in their own
Right.
world in that
That's
aspect.
obviously just going to get worse.
Yeah.
My concern is that if they don't release a newer iteration of the Switch that has more power, maybe a 1080p screen, slightly bigger, and can run some of these games that otherwise are coming to the other consoles in 4K, maybe it can run the same ones at like 1080p or a lower frame rate or something, which I don't really think that they would bring out like a 4K console. I don't. At some point, Nintendo probably will, but not in the near future.
Because it took
My
them long
concern is
enough
that
to go
like
into
they
HD
still get
itself.
right, exactly. Even the Wii U didn't really have great high definition. The Switch is what we're seeing a lot better high definition from, in my opinion. But it is a more powerful console. So, my concern is that we have games like The Witcher, which are on all three platforms. So you have Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft all have a version of The Witcher 3. But Nintendo's version of The Witcher 3 is dialed way back. And so, I don't think they're going to be able to get Cyberpunk on the system. Maybe they can. Maybe they'll impress me and, be able to get it on there. They have things like Doom on there and whatnot, but there are a handful of games that are third party that come to the Nintendo Switch, granted in a much more dialed back way, but they're not going to have that from the next generation of console. I just don't think there's any way that there's going to be a bunch of next gen games that they're like, hey, we found out how to get this to run on Switch.
Yeah,
If Nintendo doesn't make a more powerful iteration of the Switch, that they could be like, well, look, if you like third party games, pay an extra $100 and you can get the Switch Pro.
that's true. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering. I think it'd be a good move. I don't think it'd be a bad move for them. So I'd be curious to see if they have any interest in doing that, if they do it at all.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think they still got a great console. I have it either way, and I'm definitely gonna play whatever Nintendo games come to it.
Definitely. I completely agree with you there.
Now, Victor, that is all that I have this week. I don't know if you got any other final thoughts, anything else to say.
I just wanted to say that xCloud will be included in Game Pass Ultimate. So I just want to toss that out there. I'm super juiced about that.
Oh, that's right.
Because
Yep.
I do want to dive into xCloud. Currently, it doesn't look like it's supported for Apple devices, which is a real bummer considering I switched over to Apple. So I have to look for my Galaxy S7 Edge somewhere and get that going so I can at least try to be in xCloud as an early adopter.
Right. Yep. And I would say same thing for me. I have an iPhone, I have an iPad. I would love to play it on there. I'm sure that in the future it probably will come to these devices, but while it's in beta, it's not.
I might consider
I guess that's it.
upgrading before holiday 2020, or maybe get the new Samsung device, whatever they come out with next
Whoa,
year.
whoa, Victor! Don't go to the dark side. My
Man,
God.
I don't know for xCloud.
Look,
I'll
I know
do
that
it.
you want to play xCloud, but let's at least take
rationally
into
here?
consideration the fact that let's not take a huge step back in the phone that you have. I'm just kidding. I know a lot of people like Android, and I think that Samsung makes a really good one. I think that OnePlus makes a really good one, but this is probably a conversation for another time.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's go ahead and polish this off. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This should come out before Christmas, so if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. If
Yes.
you don't, then Happy Holidays. And if you don't celebrate anything, you're a Scrooge. So, but that's okay. You can do whatever you want.
Wise words there.
Thank you for joining us. Yes. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again next time.
Yeah.
Take care.
Take care, everyone.